Good evening. Welcome in to State of the Tigers here on Power Mizzou, our weekly podcast talking Mizzou football, and at least this time of year. Mizzou other things at other times of year, but this time of year, all football all the time. Fall camp exactly 5 days away from opening. We're going to be with you here every week. A lot of times, Sherrod Hamilton going to join me. I'm Gabe DeArmond. But we're going to bring different people on throughout the course of the summer and the fall to give you some different perspectives on Mizzou football. Got a couple guys that I know you guys are all fired up to hear from. We will get to tonight's guests momentarily. We could call them co-hosts, whatever. Call them the kings of the Mizzou fan base, the voice of the SEC, as Eli Drinkwitz did. We'll get to him in a couple minutes. But do want to remind you before we get going that we are brought to you tonight and each and every single week by our friend James Carlton at State Farm Insurance in Webster Groves, Missouri. You can check James out at carltoninsurance.net. You can get him on the phone at 314-961-4800. His first priority is to save you money on insurance. His second priority is to talk to you about Mizzou football. And those priorities might actually be reversed here this time of year. But give James a call, hit him up on the internet. Somebody on his team will get with you and take care of all your insurance needs. And again, talk a little Mizzou football with you, which is what we're going to do here for the next, a little while with, look, I'm not going to delay it. You guys hear from me all the time. So the only question is which order we pop these guys on the stage. And I'm pretty sure one of them picked Missouri to possibly go unbeaten. So he's going to be first. That's cousin Shane that is appearing on your screen right now. And his co-host, the banner says SEC Mike. Is this how I should refer to you guys? Should I just call you the beauty of Mizzou fans? How do you want me to go here? Voice of the SEC like Eli did?
Yeah, that rat poison. Yeah, no. Yeah, cousin Shane, SEC Mike, always good. Tiny, I've sometimes called that, Okay.
Perfect.
Never late for dinner, So, anything you want to call is fine. I've been called it all.
All right, so before we get into this, I mean, look, I watched Drink on with you guys at SEC Media Days. The new voice of the SEC. Our board wants you guys to replace Feinbaum. So is that where we're at here with this whole thing?
I couldn't tell if he was being sarcastic or not, to be quite honest with you. But
you usually can't, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I just appreciate the fact they give us the time of day. He was literally the first coach that ever joined our program. So we are like forever indebted to him. And we were wanting him when he couldn't have a winning season. So we're not some bandwagon folks that just jumped on after they won so many games last year. But no, it's so weird because we are literally just two red dicks, and they let us talk to him. They let us talk to some of these players, some of these coaches. I don't know how we're getting away with this.
That's what I wanted to ask you guys before we talk about any football, anything like that. Look, so I don't know, it was probably 2 years ago on our board, somebody said something about that SEC podcast. And I go, which SEC podcast? And now, I mean, tell me how you guys started this thing and just, did you ever see it growing to what it has?
I mean, it certainly hoped that it would, but no, honestly, never did. I mean, but yeah, long story short, I've worked in the media for a long time. I've been fired from Fox Sports when they made their infamous pivot to video. That was classic move there, which of course now I do video. So they didn't know what they had at the time, I guess. But I was working at Saturday Down South. They had a podcast. They let me host it like once or twice. I was god awful at it. They let me know I was god awful at it. I knew, but basically they didn't want me to do it. Totally understandable. So I launched this. And I never thought that it would ever be successful. I just thought it'd be a fun outlet and really help me get reps in doing so. And I actually had another guy on the show who does Knoxville radio, and he kind of bailed on me. And then I reached out to cousin Shane, who we thought would join maybe once or twice. Yeah. and he's been with me ever since.
Okay, so Shane, give me your version, man. So you were just going to be a guest, and then all of a sudden you were the main attraction.
Well, Mike called me and he said, "Hey man, so and so bailed on me." He goes, "You think you could come on and just talk a little football tonight?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." I was like, "I guess we could do that." I was so nervous. It's the first one. I mean, I always joke with Mike. I said I think there were 6 listeners and half of them were family. So I was like, "Yeah, we'll jump on." I think the segment was Nick Saban retiring, so we were a little off on that one. But we it just kind of morphed. And he started having me on every day. And, our approach was, Mike's always been the insider. He could tell you, the backup tackle for Oklahoma. But I was just a fan. I was a guy sitting on the couch, drinking bourbon, drinking cold beer, talking college football. And it just works. And honestly, it's a family business.
There you go, Mike. Going back to what you said, man, you haven't been in this business if you haven't been fired, right? I got fired 22 years ago from a TV station, and I think we all end up doing something that's probably a little bit better than the people that told us they didn't want us to do it anyway.
Right, and I just figured, well, hell, and I've seen many of people. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, Gabe, and even your listeners, but even ESPN, you see people like Brett McMurphy. When the day he got fired, I said, there is no place for trying to go, and that was always a dream of mine to work for ESPN. But what the hell is the point if you're going to bust your ass for 20 years and make it to the top of the game, and they're just going to fire you so they could probably hire someone cheaper? That's when I really thought that the only way to do this is independently. And many people have approached us about, joining this or that, and I just refuse to do it.
I keep waiting for Mike to fire me,
Yeah. Well, I know. Look, you gotta roll on our message boards if that ever happens, because you are the most popular man in the Missouri fan base. Not only because I think it's possible you said they've got a shot to be 12-0 this year, but like you actually thought they were going to be good last year when none of us thought they. I didn't think they were good.
Yeah.
Was there some reason for that, or was that kind of a I don't know, there's got to be somebody that I'm not thinking of that's going to be good?
Mine was the defense. I fell in love with the defense the year prior. I was looking at that returning talent, and then I started looking at Luther, and I just said, hey, if we could get something out of the quarterback, we may have something here. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, if you look at some of the old tapes, I was not on Brady's bandwagon to begin with. I was waiting for the next guy to come up, and unfortunately got hurt and the quarterback competition. But then all of a sudden we look back and Cook took that step forward. And that's, I think, he's the dude. If you look at one guy to make this piece all work, was your quarterback. And once that hit, I was like, hey, I've got a lot of bad takes, but you better believe I'm going to lean into this one for a few months.
Look, everybody reminds you of the ones you got wrong every day, so you got to remind them of the ones you got right. No question. Look, you guys were down in SEC Media Days in Dallas is weird. This whole Texas thing doesn't work for me, but whatever. You were down in Dallas all week. You talked to a ton of people. So one of the biggest things that I've talked to people about and that our fans are asking every single day, Missouri and Ole Miss, like, I think they're the same program. I think they're in the same situation. Did you guys get the feeling down there that, like, Ole Miss is kind of viewed as a lock? Like, they're hey, no question, top 10, maybe top 5 team. Missouri's viewed as possible a step below that. Was that the feeling down there? And what do you guys think the difference is there?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think a lot of people, when they talk about Missouri, they just talk about the schedule and the fact that they have that path, which that in a sense, I think that is fair, because I don't know if you saw this, but I did this right after the season ended, but I combined every SEC team for the upcoming season, the combined record of all the opponents they play, and Missouri's the only one that they're facing teams that had a combined losing record, and the vast majority are like not even close to 500. They're in like the 60 percentile and up. So it is fair to point at the schedule, but I don't think that's what defines Missouri. I think what defines Missouri is the best player in all of college football, in my opinion. Every time I watch Missouri, it's night and day. There's one player that is just like a video game. He's on another level from anybody else on the field. And that was every game he played, including Georgia, which he got banged up in. So that Luther Burden, of course, what I'm talking about. But I really think year 2, Kirby Moore, I thought that was just such a great hire that it, for some reason, is kind of goes under the radar. And I always like year 2 of a coordinator. I think they can take even a bigger step further. Adding Caden Green, I thought that was, we all know all about that. But the fact that you were able to piss off Oklahoma at the same time makes it even better. But yeah, I don't know. I just think Missouri may be close to unstoppable on offense this year if they find answers at running back. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend that I sit here and watch Georgia State and Appalachian State. But by all accounts, everyone I talk to, they say that this is a perfect combo to replace what Cody Schrader gave this team last year. So I'm not seeing any fault with Missouri. Aside, one that I've kind of picked up on, they virtually played the same 5 on the offensive line all year last year, and they were very successful. And can you count on that to happen 2 years in a row? We spoke with Gerard down at SEC Media Days. He says, they've developed pretty well on the offensive line. So maybe that's not as big of a concern as I was thinking when I discovered those numbers. But just the fact that I don't want to call it luck because I think that's unkind to Missouri, but you do need injury luck in this league. And I think they got it on the offensive line. Can they get it 2 years in a row? That's a tall ask, I think.
And nobody wants to talk about luck, but like every team that's good has luck, right? I mean, 2 years ago, Missouri fans just could not tell enough people we were 3 plays from 9-3, which was not wrong. Well, last year they were 3 plays from 8-5. Yeah. And that's the difference between a great season and kind of let's move on to the next one, right? It's 3 or 4 plays out of 1,000, and that's true for every single team. Shane, I would be remiss if I did not ask you, what's it like to be the only Tennessee fan that Missouri fans like? Like, I think, tell me if this is fair, first of all. People ask me, who is the least liked fan base in the SEC? And I say, like, if you asked all 16 schools, I think at least 12 of them would say Tennessee. And it's all because of the Twitter presence. It's like the Tennessee people I know in person seem to be good people. But is that fair? Do you think that's how a lot of people feel about this league?
Yeah, well, I mean, we know Tennessee fans know that everyone hates us. And that's okay because that's our approach online as well. Growing up a Tennessee fan, if anybody was mentioned, it didn't matter if it was a Division II team, they were scum. They were beneath us. And, you would think that we've had 15 national championships the last 10 years, but that's just where we're at as a Tennessee Vol fan base. And I get it because even me, if I make a positive comment on Mizzou, there's 2 or 3 that says, why don't you just switch, Shane? Why don't you just get the hell out of here? It's like, hey, why can't I like this too? I'm one of those guys, going back to kind of the origin of our story. I've always been one of those guys that if my team doesn't win, let's say we're in a playoff or a BCS championship at the time, I'm going to root for the SEC team. I've always been that kind of SEC homer, and some people can't do that. Some people won't do that, but that's just the way I grew up.
See, that's an interesting. I know there's a lot of people like that in the SEC. Mm-hmm. That was, look, I grew up Big 8, and then Missouri went to the Big 12, and my approach always was, no, every team in the league outside of your team, you want them to lose. Like, this whole conference unity thing is not something. It's been 11 years.
It's rare.
I'm not used to it. I'm never going to get used to it. But look, I feel like that's a good place to kind of jump into talking about some of the SEC stuff, and want to encourage all you guys. I think everybody watching knows, but that SEC podcast, they do it. I don't know how you guys do it every single day. I have a hard time talking once a week, to be honest. But if you want the conference wide stuff and previews of every team and all that, make sure to check them out and follow them. But so I want to start there, Shane, with Tennessee again. I know Josh Heupel a little bit from his time here, and I actually kind of like Josh. Like most people, Josh, good football coach, no personality. I always got along with him. I didn't think there was any way it was going to work there. I thought, I know Josh somewhat. I know what Tennessee fans are like. I can't see that working. And to both sides' credit, it has worked unbelievably well. Like, are you surprised by that?
Um, I'm surprised how quick it happened. Year two with Hendon Hooker and being right there at the doorsteps of a 14 college football playoff. I was not ready for that acceleration, even though I did embrace it. I thought that this would be a rebuild. By year three, year four, then maybe we can compete, not win championships. I was just wanting to keep it close with Georgia and Alabama, So I think that speaks volumes to how good Coach Heupel is and what he's been able to do at Tennessee. And you got to remember, we're coming off Jeremy Pruitt too. So you got a defensive minded coach, and then all of a sudden you're five wide and you're going, 100 miles an hour. Yeah. Tennessee fans embraced it pretty damn quick.
Yeah, no doubt. Mike, I think, tell me if this is how you see it. I looked at it. There's 7 teams in this league that have legitimate playoff hopes. And if you want to throw A&M and Oklahoma in as, hey, it's not out of the question. A lot of things would have to go right, but it's not out of the question. More than half this league starts the season with at least some real reason to say we can play in the playoff. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I would even maybe go closer to 10. Now,
okay.
Will that happen?
Who would you say the 10th is?
Well, again, I don't think Texas makes the playoff. I'm like on an island thinking that they're out. But just given the fact, I assume you're counting Missouri and Ole Miss as well. But I think that's outliers. Just the fact that they're expecting it. So I'm throwing them in there. I need to look at my power rankings. But
yeah, I think it's Georgia, Texas, Mizzou, Ole Miss, Tennessee,
Bama,
Alabama, and LSU start with, hey, things go right. We're in the 12-team playoff.
Right. Well, but again, I mean, things change quickly too. I mean, who in the world would have Missouri, aside from Cousin Shane, as a playoff contender a year ago? You know what I mean? That's what this conference can do. Can Kentucky get there realistically? I don't think so, but could they do it? I mean, it could happen if they hit with Brock Vandagriff. They're bringing back a ton on defense. I mean, they could be this year's Missouri. I think Florida, they're going to be a lot better than people realize. Now, are they going to be a playoff contender? Certainly not. But again, they could threaten. I mean, that's a fan base that they should be in the race. You know what I mean? I guess that's more what I'm trying to say. There's about 10 fan bases out of 16 that expect to be there. And realistically, I don't know if 5 can get in there. So what we're talking is 5 to 6 to 7 fan bases every year that are going to be mad as hell that they didn't make the college football playoff. And you want to talk pressure. I mean, that's what you're getting into with this league. So yeah, you might be a little bit closer to 7, 8 teams that realistically have a shot. But again, it would not stun me if you rise in this conference, if you upset a team here or there, that all of a sudden you find yourself in that playoff mix, just like Missouri did last season.
And I think that's the important part is you're changing the standards. Mizzou, we're enjoying the success. We love the stadium being built. We love the 5 stars coming to our place, things like that. But you got to realize that with that comes expectations. And, we talk about a team like Florida, 10 years ago, their expectation was to have 10 win seasons every year to represent the East in the SEC. That was now we're like, man, if they hit a bowl game, Billy Napier. So standards can also change quickly as well.
Yeah. And look, I think that's the fun part of this, right? My entire life as a college football fan, you start the season and I go, yeah, give me 8 teams. I'll name the playoff teams, right? I mean, I can name them in July. And now there are fan bases all over the country. I mean, we're going to go into November with 35 teams think they have a shot at this thing. I think that's great. Look, I don't want to keep you guys all night, but in the comments, I understand you are planning a trip to Columbia. Is that right?
Yeah. November 9th, Mike. We're going to be up there. We're going I'm still working out the details. Haven't got it official yet, but hopefully we're going to be on that field beating that big old drum y'all got.
I mean, if you guys manage to pull that off, I'll be impressed, because it's been like Sophie Cunningham, Chase Daniel, Sean Weatherspoon. If you guys can be the ones that hit Big Mo before the game, that's an accomplishment.
It's funny that interview with Drink came out, and Drink said he's gonna get us there. He's gonna let us ride around in his sweet ride that jumps up and down. And then after that interview came out, I had 4 or 5 reach out and said, "Hey, I know who's over the band," you know. So I don't know, man. I if it happens, it happens. But for sure, me and Mike will be up there November 9th to raise some hell with y'all.
Okay, I know that's probably the game on the schedule that most Missouri fans are looking forward to. It's I think we live our lives in this thing where we mistake what happens online for real things, right? Like we all judge Tennessee fans based on what we see on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And Oklahoma, Missouri online is a very hateful thing right now. I don't really think that's very representative of real life, but on Twitter it's real.
Drink said he didn't know who they're playing November 9th. Do you buy that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely.
After I told him it was Oklahoma.
Here's what I'm most disappointed in is that those of us in the media have turned Eli Drinkwitz into, like, Eli was boring at SEC Media Days last week. I don't want that, man. Bring back the guy that talks a bunch of shit. That's fun.
Yeah.
I want to see that, but now these coaches do it and they get blasted all over Twitter and all over SEC Network, and that makes them scared to do it. So I hope that's not what we're getting out of Drink going forward.
No, I think, I felt like he opened up a little bit with us. But again, there was that natural reserve to not give us too much rat poison out there. So I think one thing that both me and Mike, I'm speaking for Mike too, is that we appreciate with Drake is just how authentic he is, and that is hard to come by, especially, you look at some of the coaches that's come through here in the last 20, 30 years, it's the same stuff. It's the Kirby Smarts over and over. It's the Nick Saban saying the same thing over and over. And now you got guys like him and Beamer, and I know I probably shouldn't have mentioned Shane Beamer, but these guys come up and you feel like they're speaking from their heart, that like they're not hiding anything. And that's why you see a coach like Drink do so well on the recruiting trail, because the kids, they can read right through fake.
Yeah, well, hey, I put a thread on our board a couple days ago. I said, all right, hey, I'm going to try to add some people to our podcast. Who do you guys want to hear from? You guys were number one, the most requested. That you've now had as many one-on-ones with Eli Drinkwitz as I have, covering him every day. So congratulations on that. You get to bang the drum. You're going to be mayors of Columbia. You're going to come up here November 9th, and we'll tell you all the good places to eat. Now, Shane, I know you skip meals and only want to go to the vegan places, right?
That's right. I'm bringing an extra suitcase, so I go down to aisle 2 and take all that Mizzou food home with me. I've seen everything from chips to crackers to cookies. So yeah, I gotta sample that while I'm out there.
Yeah, the chips are pretty good. The cookies, I think, I don't know. I think they're pretty generic.
Frozen pizza is
sandwich
fantastic.
Cookies. Frozen. Is it good?
Yeah.
I've never had it.
Yeah, me either. I eat salads most of the time, but I do splurge a little on the weekends.
All right. But no, seriously, I know you guys just got done with the show of your own, but really appreciate you spending some time. And I can't promise Missouri fans are going to love you next year if you pick them 6-6, but for this year, you guys are the kings of Columbia, and they absolutely love everything you do, and we'll point them your direction.
Yeah, we're just thankful that they're not playing Tennessee this year, because I don't think Shane could take another beatdown like that, like they gave him last year.
I mean, let's be honest. I think net score the last 3 years is still heavily in Tennessee's favor.
Yeah. That was a tough one. That was I wanted that game to end quickly. Once I realized it got out of hand. But hey, Mike's right. And the cool thing about it is now with the expanded college football playoffs, who says we can't see another Tennessee and Mizzou?
Right. Look, I've said, and you guys know how it is when you cover the games, like you're not rooting for anybody, but I'm rooting for a Mizzou Ole Miss SEC title game just to see the old boys network and the SEC's heads explode when Lane Kiffin and Eli Drinkwitz are on the sidelines in Atlanta.
Yeah, I embrace that.
Oh, that will not go over well in Athens and Tuscaloosa. I guarantee you that.
Correct. And hey, I mean, it's Texas's birthright to be in that game already. They've been here a whole 22 days. So here we go.
Yeah, I made the joke. I made the trip up to Norman for July 1st when they officially entered the league, and I was just telling everybody. I mean, we're one day into this thing. I'm already tired of Texas fans.
Yeah, it's I would say they're an acquired taste, but I don't know that you acquire it really.
No, it's forced upon you. You know, it's just like every question that was. That's one thing I if I could remove. You know how you can mute words on Twitter? It's like if I can mute Texas and Oklahoma or joining the SEC, if I could have done that, that would have been great, because now media days would have been a lot shorter, but that seems like the every question that you got was kind of forced upon you on Texas and Oklahoma.
All right, fellas. Well, I appreciate it. We're going to let you guys go for the evening. I know you're busy. Got 18 more shows this week and and all that, but thanks for the time, and we'll definitely follow you all season long.
All right.
Thanks for having us, Gabe.
All right. Have a good one, guys. That is SEC Mike, Cousin Shane, that SEC podcast. You find them on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. They're all over the place, talking SEC football every single day. So appreciate them hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. To be quite frank with you, I think my screen is frozen, so I'm hoping that you are still hearing me.
Am I still here?
Yeah.
Good thing I didn't take my shirt off, you know.
Good deal. So yeah, we're gonna let these guys go, and we're gonna let you all go as well. Again, I know the audio is still working, so I know you're gonna hear this on the podcast, whether you're seeing us right now. But anyway, once again, brought to you by our friend James Carlton at State Farm Insurance in Webster Groves, Missouri. You get in touch with James at carltoninsurance.net. You can call him at 314-961-4800. Appreciate all you guys who are hanging out with us here tonight. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those things before you leave. If you're listening on the podcast, leave us a nice review. We'll talk to you next time.